What's going on, y'all? It's Friday night. Y'all know what
Yes,
that
it is.
means. Interactive, live, sports talk. It's your boy, Box Talk Sports, Stephen Box. Find us, of course, at Real Play Callers on Twitter. And joined, as always, by my co-host, one half of the tag team champions of Interactive Sports Talk, the one and the only.
And tag team champions of the world. It's your boy, Cool McCain.
And together, we are the
Play
Callers. Man, we got a big show tonight. We're going to kick things off tonight by talking a little NFL news, a couple of little tidbits, and then, of course, we got the preview for the NFL playoffs divisional round. And we're going to have a couple of special guests come on and talk about that. And looking forward to it, man, especially one game in particular I'm looking forward to talking to tonight. But we're also going to talk a little bit about maybe some of those games from this past weekend, too. So we'll see how much time we have. So cool, man. Got some news and notes from around the league going on today. A couple of hires, couple of firings.
Yep. So we'll start, of course, with the Carolina Panthers making a decision, broke earlier today, on the new offensive coordinator, Ben McAdoo. You may know him as the former head coach of the New York Football, we're going to say Giants tonight because we're talking serious.
Because you're behaving tonight.
At least for the moment. But the thing about it is, a lot of mixed reactions on the hiring. For me, I don't have a problem with him being a coordinator, right? He's not being hired to be a head coach. A lot of people laugh and, Ben McAdoo, I can't believe you're hiring Ben McAdoo. He's a fine offensive coordinator. You know, he made some observations about players like Mahomes. Felt the Giants should jump up and, grab him in the draft. He felt like Josh Allen and Lamar Jackson were going to be the best quarterbacks in their draft and not Sam Darnold. That's come to fruition. And some other moves. So I think when you look at a guy like Ben McAdoo, he probably is that coordinator level, right? Some guys are just not that head coach level. They're just the coordinator level. So I think he's a good hire for Matt Rule. He does have some NFL coaching experience, so he brings that to a staff that didn't really have a lot of it before it was put together. So I think, for myself, it's not a bad hire at all.
Yeah, I actually like the hire for them. A lot of people, I think they remember his stint as a head coach in New York, but maybe forget about the fact that when he was just the offensive coordinator in New York, Eli had one of his best statistical seasons in the regular season. He actually had fewer turnovers that year. So he really limited Eli's mistakes and got a lot of productivity out of him as an offensive coordinator. So, I think it's a great hire, actually.
Definitely. Not really going to spend much time talking about it, but at least notifying or notarizing that it did happen. The Ravens decided to part ways with Don Wink Martindale. 1 year there. Not really sure if he was the problem, but to me, and I'm sure my co-host will agree, that was not the main person that probably needed to be out of the door. But, that's the decision that the Ravens made.
Yeah. That guy would be located on the other side of the ball.
I think we can both agree on that.
Yeah.
We also have some interesting news out of the Cowboys, or as we like to call them here on the Play Call Sports Talk Show, the Arlington football team. And their owner, Mr. Jerry Jones, being non-committal on his hire as coach a couple of years ago, Mike McCarthy. For me, I can simply say, duh. We said this when you made the hire. I mean,
yeah.
I mean, not to be funny, but you hired a guy that was ran out of town with one of the best quarterbacks that we've had in the last 20 years in Aaron Rodgers. And you thought he was going to turn around your team. I mean, he did have a good regular season, but same old football team from Arlington in the playoffs.
So what this tells me is that either Jerry Jones did not watch our show previously or he just started watching our show. Because I said when they made the hire that it was a terrible decision. Now, we have a certain Cowboys fan who's a fan of our show who sat over here and gave us like number on top of number on top of number about how Mike McCarthy was going to be so great. And we sit here and said that it was a bad hire. And then during our divisional preview for the season, when we got to the NFC East, we both said the same thing. The Cowboys roster is loaded with talent. The problem is coaching. Coaching is going to be what bites them in the end. Guess what? Coaching is what bit them in the end. Well, that because they went up against a better team, but you know.
But want to shout out Snowman Brian Snow for watching us, and he definitely just started watching. Hopefully, he continues to watch and understands that this is the place to help you with your Arlington football team.
Well, actually, Jerry, you feel free to tune out. Everybody else, stay tuned. Jerry, you tune out because we don't want to help you any.
He'll still mess it up. He's still Jerry Jones.
I'm worried that Steven might join him, start making good decisions.
Mm. Well, I don't think we have too much to worry about with that, but hey, man,
Never know, man. Never know.
What do they say? What's the phrase? The apple doesn't fall far from the tree.
Fair enough.
Now, on the Giants front, the Giants hired Joe Schoen as their next general manager. Mm-hmm. He's the Bills' assistant GM. I think he's someone that will be very beneficial. I think he will help the Giants organization quite a bit. Mm-hmm. And I think the simple thing about him is that you come from the Bills, which is a solid organization. Yeah. So when you come from a solid organization, you can bring some of that winning juju over to a team that definitely needs it. And then a lot of people are wondering why there wasn't a lot of talk on the coach front for the Giants. Well, you needed a general manager too. So when you see, I agree with that, Big E. When you see situations where there's a GM that needs to be put in place first, don't expect a coaching hire until you get that GM, because the GM helps make that decision. So just to give you guys a heads up, remember with me, GM first, coach second. One comes before two.
Yes, unless you are doing a situation where they are coming in together and they've already agreed that they want to work together beforehand. It just makes a lot more sense to bring in the GM first.
That could be considered collusion, sir. We don't do those type of things in the NFL. That's only NBA players that agree to play together beforehand. We don't do that in the NFL.
I think you could do it with executives and coaches. I think that's fine.
Yeah, you could. I just had to throw that out there, man. I mean, it is what it is.
Always accusing people of something, man. It's the Philly fan in you.
Yes, it is. So, real quick, didn't talk about this beforehand, but two important moves in Philadelphia. So Brandon Brooks, the often injured lineman for us the past few years, has retired. Personally, he retired 2 years ago. He just didn't know it, and we kept paying him. So he's actually retired now. I mean, he is a quality player, but he just could not stay healthy. And you might as well leave. Other important bit of news with the Philadelphia Eagles is Jason Kelce is pondering retirement. Our coach sent him 2 kegs of beer to try to get him to come back.
I would just say that is an upgrade over challenging him to a game of rock, paper, scissors to get him to stay. So
for me, I don't have as much of a problem with my coach doing these things. I think sometimes he just needs to not say these things out loud, right? It's
I feel like
why?
That's a good idea,
yeah. Why do you need to open your mouth and say these things? I just don't understand, right? I just don't understand. But that is, what we have.
Okay. So yeah, I mean, I'm sure we'll have a lot more news by next week. Obviously, as we go through the playoffs, you're gonna have a lot more guys getting hired. A lot of these teams are gonna kind of probably wait on some of the teams that are still in the playoffs. Because let's be honest, there's not a whole lot of hot coaching names out there that are not still in the playoffs right now. You do have a couple of names out there, but it's not a lot. So I expect by the time this show airs next week, we'll have at least a couple of hires in place, including some of those names that are not currently on playoff rosters. Those might even happen over the weekend. So
there is one more thing. It's just going to take a bit until we have to talk about.
Okay.
You're going to laugh at this. I'm sorry, but I can't let it wait.
Okay.
So being interviewed, Mason Rudolph and Dwayne Haskins are excited at the prospect of competing to be the Steelers QB1 next season.
You know, this feels like a fantastic time to take a commercial break. We will be right back in 60 seconds. All right, welcome back to the Play Caller Sports Talk Show. I'm Stephen Box, joined with my co-host, as always, the one and only Cool McCain. And we're about to bring on a special guest to help us talk about the Kansas City and Buffalo Bills game. So do you want to do the formal introductions?
I'm going to let her introduce herself, sir, because
Sounds
she
like a
is
plan
a
to me.
repeat person here, so she can do it. She's got this.
All right. Hey, Carrie, welcome to the show.
Hello, gentlemen. How are you tonight?
We're doing fantastic.
I apologize in advance. I'm coming off something. It could be the nasty C thing. It could be all kinds of anything, but my voice fluctuates, so it is what it is. Yeah. Thank you for having me again. Had a blast last time. Ready to do it again. Still laughing over the tryout for the first place Steelers quarterback. Oh my God.
Oh, man.
Maybe they're tomorrow on Madden. Maybe that's what it is.
I heard a couple of helmets got flung in the process, but whatever.
I saw it and I'm like, I have to talk about this, but I really couldn't talk about it because it's just so entertaining. It's just too entertaining.
Oh God. Oh my gosh.
Yeah, that's
There's
really nothing else to say on it.
Yeah,
jokes for days.
Yes. It's too much for our show.
Yes. So Carrie, you're here to talk to us a little bit about the Chiefs and the Bills.
Yes.
So let's start with the Kansas City Chiefs.
Yes.
They started off the season really slow. Looked like everybody had them figured out. They had their number, and they've made some adjustments over the course of the season. And right now, they are one of the hottest teams in the NFL. So what has changed with them? Why are they suddenly finding success at this time that they weren't earlier in the season?
Okay, well, by week 7, we were already shipped off to the equivalent of the Jets, basically, and that we weren't going to do anything, and we were washed up. But honestly, we had a whole bunch of new people on the O-line. We had a new defensive line. It takes a minute when you've got rookies. We brought in we brought in people that had already played, but we also brought in a bunch of rookies. And you got rookies trying to run with big men, with grown men, and learning what they're supposed to be doing. We had Chris Jones playing something else. I don't even know what Steve was thinking about that, but that was stupid on his part. We had all these people trying to learn their position in a live environment when everybody knew how the Chiefs' offense was, and so it was gross. It was harsh. But as we did in 2020, our defense kept gaining each week. Each week we get a little bit better, a little bit stronger, a little bit more gelled. And now I think, we're running with a pretty well-oiled machine. Do we have problems still? Sure, we do. But at the same time, it's not something that you can take as lightly as far as the defense goes. As far as offense, when you don't have an O-line that you can stand behind and you want that, you need that to be able to pull it off. Patrick was not, he was reacting instead of, or he was acting instead of being proactive with plays. He was reactive with what was going on. And it was not good. It was gross, and it wasn't pretty. But now we've got the group going, and, with the addition of several here in the middle of the season, it looks pretty nice.
So now you've got coming into town a Buffalo Bills team that's been a bit Jekyll and Hyde. Some weeks they look really bad, and then other weeks they look just unstoppable. I mean, last week they absolutely destroyed a Bill Belichick defense.
Obliterated.
And I was not sad about that at all. Did I say that out loud?
Yes, we
sorry. I'm so sorry. I thought that was in my head. I have a friend that's a lifelong Bills fan, and I sent him a message. I'm like, hey, I'm rooting tonight, and I love what you're doing, but you go ahead and use all of it tonight and just leave it there in Buffalo, because come next week, we don't want that, okay? No, for real, though, the Buffalo Bills, Josh Allen's on fire. Last year, I said Josh Allen's going to be one that we get to watch develop, because he is going to be there. And the dude's knocking on the door. He's right there, right there at the edge of it's mine to take. And he's got what it takes. It's just making sure that it's always there for him.
Yeah. Now, Carrie, talk to me about you've kind of mentioned the Buffalo Bills a little bit, but they're one of the teams that were like a sweetheart earlier in the season and in the preseason. Everybody was talking about how Buffalo was going to be so great. Everything with Josh Allen. What do you think that Kansas City can do to slow down or negate Josh Allen and the Buffalo Bills offense?
We're going to have to do. We're going to have to be strong on that third down, and even when they like to take the shot on the fourth now, we're going to have to be strong there. We can do it. I mean, I've watched week after week as we grow stronger and stronger. We stop them on that third down and on that fourth down and don't make it where they can advance, and they end up having to make the decision: do we try for the fourth, or do we take the 3 points? What do we do at this point? So we're forcing their hand at that point, and that's what our guys have got to do. Is they're going to have to be strong on that, that bend not break type stuff. That third down is going to be the crucial one. We have to make sure that that's not something that they get. And it's going to be hard. I mean, keeping Josh Allen is going, you've got him as a threat, and so you've got to watch him as well. So that is going to be where it comes down to is how many third downs we let them convert. And that's where, when we let them convert, it's going to be trouble for us from that on. From that point forward. We also got to have our corners be really careful, because they like to call pass interference against Kansas City. That's one of the things that we get caught with often, and they're going to have to be super careful. We were this last game, but we played Pittsburgh. So, I think it's going to be those two things: is the corners not turning over or giving them free plays on pass interference, and making the third downs count this time, making them all count.
Yeah, I think the pass interference thing is something that I know a lot of teams that complained about. We got hit with some questionable ones this year. We also got hit with a lot of Josh Norman stupidity that also gave us a lot of hours. I know the Cowboys were also called for a lot. So you've had several teams that have been really called for it. I mean, what are your thoughts on the inconsistency of the pass interference this year? Because, I mean, it could definitely play a part in one of these playoff games.
So, yeah. And, even when you listen to Joe Burrow, when we lost to them by 3, he said we had calls favorable going our way. Sure. We did. We there were some calls that were questionable. Do they miss them on us too? You betcha. But honest to God, if you're letting the referees make those calls to determine your game, you've already lost. So you should be playing where the referees, even with those questionable calls, are not taking you out of the driver's seat. And so, that's back to those closing them down on the third downs, being tight and succinct with your stop, instead of giving the refs an opportunity to make that questionable call, whether it's questionable in your favor or against you. That shouldn't be what happens to the game. When you leave the game in the ref's hands, you've really you've already succumbed to a loss. It's just, can you dig it back out from that point? That's my 2 cents on that.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, I completely agree with that.
So one question that I will ask, when it comes to Buffalo's defense, there again, we talked about them being kind of a Jekyll and Hyde team, and I think no aspect of their team has been more so than their defense. Some weeks their defense looks fantastic, and other weeks it doesn't.
Right.
What does Kansas City need to do offensively to take advantage of what Buffalo does defensively?
I think with McKinnon having such a great last 2 games, I mean, if you look, they've got to worry about which group we're putting in at any given time. And I think that if we are constantly kind of not, the trick plays drive me nuts, because I'm like, just play ball, guys, just play ball. Let's not try to, I love it that we had a big guy score, but come on, let's just play ball. Let's not try to find the flash. Yeah. But at the same time, we have enough people that we can rotate through, make it splash, and they all play a little bit differently, that we could make it it works to our advantage in the fact that, Josh McKinnon's tall and lean, but you get CEH out there, and he's a short little dude that's going to drag you and the entire crew with you to get his yards. So it's the fact that we can keep changing out who is the ball carrier, the ball handler at that point, will help us. Like Darrell Williams, my gosh, he just doesn't stop. He keeps, and that's pretty awesome, So I think that the key to ours is that we have enough weapons that we keep it fresh and keep it changing, that it will always be. They're going to have to figure out who's in what position and who's going to be out there on that play to move the ball forward at that point. I think that's going to be the added benefit we have.
Okay. Just to kind of wrap up here, if you were to look at this from the perspective of one thing that Buffalo is going to be able to do that can help them win this game, and one thing that's going to cost them this game.
Honestly, I think it's going to live and die on Josh Allen. If we let him be extremely mobile and run and let him use his legs as well as his arms, I think that is the double-edged sword. If we can contain him and keep him where he is not comfortable in running, and keep him in an area, I think that's going to be personally, that's going to be what I'm going to be looking for, is can we keep him from getting those big yardage, because we don't want him to be their number 1 running back. That's not going to help us. We don't want, that's where I see it is going to be the rise and fall of this game, is how well we keep Josh Allen from being the running part.
Cool. You got any additional questions you want to ask real quick?
Yeah, quick question for you, Carrie. So we know you think's going to win the game, right? That's pretty clear.
Well, yeah.
Do you think that this is going to be a dominant victory either way, or do you think this is going to be one of those really close games that comes down to who has the ball last, maybe a field goal to 10-point victory?
I see that it's going to be a true grit game, tit for tat, the entire thing. I mean, it's going to be something that you can't go to bed on the third quarter knowing that you've got a 20-point lead. That's not happening. It's just not going to be that. I really foresee it being a tit for tat, and this is true grit, and whoever owns the clock owns the game. I'll be really honest.
Makes sense to me. So, Carrie, appreciate you coming on. If you guys win, we'd love to have you back on next week.
Absolutely.
Shout out to you. Shout out to the NFL Carousel. Make sure you guys are paying attention to that on Sideline Sports Network right here.
One last thing is the Bills do have something that they're going up against that no one has come into Arrowhead and beat us twice in the same season.
That's a very interesting stat.
I was very happy to go ahead and give them the win during the regular season, and I'm ready now to go ahead and take our W. So we gave them their one, but they don't get two in Arrowhead.
Well,
that's my call.
Them sound like fighting words, so best of luck to y'all.
Absolutely. Gentlemen, thank you very much. I appreciate your time.
Thank you. Have a good one.
You too. Bye-bye.
Thanks for coming on.
So yeah, man, I think that's gonna be that's gonna be a pretty interesting game. So do you want to cover this other AFC game real quick, or do you want to jump over to the NFC and talk about this Rams Bucs game?
Let's go ahead and hop on this Bengals Titans game real quick. I'll give you my thoughts, man. I'm gonna make this real quick. Not to disrespect Cincinnati, but I'm gonna give you, obviously my opinions. I did see that Big E made a comment while we were talking. I think that they think they good. I think I know what you're talking about. Definitely agree.
Yeah, he's talking about them two quarterbacks. Yeah.
Yes, sir. So with the Bengals and Titans, the Bengals won their Super Bowl, so to speak, with their playoff win last year. Great. This is the first time ever that you can text that the Cincinnati Bengals won a playoff game. Great for them. I'm happy, and I think that they're definitely heading in the right direction. But you're about to run into King Henry. Fresh legs, King Henry. And even if he's not 100%, that's fresh legs, King Henry, and A.J. Brown, right? So I'll say this, the Tennessee Titans, and I talked about this in the preseason, that I felt their defense was going to be a lot better than it was last year. It was. Like most defenses, it had times where you were kind of like, you got to do better. But for the most part, this was a good, strong, solid defense for most of the season. You pair that with King Henry back, A.J. Brown's been able to go off without him. So when you add that other element in, this is going to be, I think, a coming out party for Tennessee to let people know we're back. We got mostly a full squad together. Julio might even decide to show up and show a little love this game. So I think Tennessee is going to handle their business.
So, it's interesting. I was telling someone the other day, it's not unrealistic. This isn't the way I'm picking it, but it's not unrealistic that the road teams could actually win all 4 games this weekend.
It's not unrealistic, no.
And when I look at Cincinnati, what I see is their defense is okay. It's not great. But they got some guys that got banged up last week. I'm not 100% sure what some of the statuses is on those guys. Even if they're playing this week, are they going to really be healthy? And that's kind of a question mark for a defense that wasn't playing that great anyways. The offense is phenomenal. I mean, their offense has just been on fire. Joe Burrow really and truly does have the mindset of, screw it, Jamar Chase is out there somewhere, right? Like, I'll just throw the ball to him. And it's worked for them. So I expect them to be able to put up some points. So when I look at Tennessee, what I see is a more solid defense and an offense that's kind of questionable at times, right? And we both know the story with Derrick Henry. With King Henry is very simple. If you can tackle him in the backfield, he usually goes down fairly easily. But if you let him get going, He's almost impossible to bring down. So the question is, can the Cincinnati Bengals get in the backfield and disrupt him before he gets going? I don't think they can.
I definitely don't think they can.
And I think Tennessee's defense is going to make more plays in this game than Cincinnati's, and I think that's going to be the difference.
Eric says over in the comments that he thinks it'll be close. I'm going to be honest with you. I don't think it's going to be that close. I don't think it'll be like a dominant blowout, but I'm comfortable with 14. I'm comfortable with, what we say here. I'm comfortable. As a matter of fact, I'll go with 31-14. I'm comfortable that Tennessee is going to be able to double up and add a little sprinkle of some sauce on top of it for this game.
I'm not convinced that Tennessee's defense can hold him to 14 points.
I am.
I think it will be fairly close. I don't necessarily think it's gonna be like a 1-point game, but I could see it being a 1-score game. It's kind of how I see this one going. But I mean, what it ultimately comes down to is, can Cincinnati score against Tennessee's defense? If Cincinnati can put up points, anything can happen.
This is very true. I just don't think that they're going to be able to, because I think when you start hitting them hard, bumping them on the routes, discombobulating what they normally try to do.
Not discombobulate.
Yes, sir. It's going to affect them in a way that is going to throw off what they normally do. And I think they're going to run ball control, because King Henry can't be 100% right. He's definitely not back in football shape. So I think you're going to have a lot of short power runs. You're going to incorporate the other backs a little bit. And your goal is to play Tennessee football, which is ground and pound. And when A.J. Brown open down that seam, or you leave him open on that play action, he's going to burn you.
Yeah. And I will say, the one thing that I really feel like Cincinnati has against them, Joe Burrow has that gunslinger mentality, right? I mean, we just said that, like, the whole, like, screw it, Jamar Chase is out there somewhere mentality. Against a good defense like Tennessee, that's going to lead to at least 1 or 2 interceptions.
Yep. And that's where you're only going to get 14.
And that could be the difference in this game. So we'll see. It'll be definitely interesting. I think it'll be a fun game to watch. At least I hope it's going to be a fun game to watch. So we'll see.
Honestly, seriously, though, I think it'll be the most exciting 2-score game that you're going to see in a long time. Like, I think it'll be exciting because it'll be a lot of big plays, but they don't necessarily correlate to points in this particular scenario in my mind.
Now, I will say, if Tennessee is smart, what they're going to do is they're not going to go and ask Derrick Henry to go out there and run 25, 30 times.
No, you got to run it back by committee.
Yeah, you go run it back by committee for this game.
Stick to it.
Let him build his stamina back up. Let him get back into it. Because if you don't, it's not going to be a good look at all. Because going forward, you don't want to risk him getting hurt again.
Well, you definitely don't want that. I think they saved him for the last minute, which I think was a wise decision. Yep. He's probably being able to, do some working out, some running, and some of those things. Just not going to be 100% until off season, really. But you just want to be good enough.
All right, so there you see.
Yes, sir.
So Eric throwing down the betting odds for everybody at home.
So I agree, Billy V. I think it's going to be pretty high scoring. I just think that some of those scores that kind of like my co-host said, some of those scores that you would normally get from Cincinnati, it's going to be a bad play. It's going to get eaten.
Yeah. When you say 14, that seems too low. I mean, I could see Tennessee putting up 31 points, but I would think it'd be more like 31 to 26 or something like that.
And Billy V's point real quick, you got to remember the Titans have struggled without the King. And again, he's not going to be the same running back that he was earlier in the year, because he's going to have to work himself back into shape. But when you have him in the backfield, you're not kicking as many punts. You're not giving the other team as many opportunities. So if you can cut down on the opportunities that the other team has, that's how you keep your Achilles heel, so to speak, covered.
My big bold prediction for this game is that there's going to be a play where Cincinnati is going to get a ball ripped out and fumbled, where the forward movement should have been called, and a referee is going to be scared to blow their whistle too early.
So in other words, you're just trying to put it back on to kind of how they got there.
Yes.
A little karma, you're saying.
Yeah, a little karma, yeah.
Got it.
I mean, unless Tom Brady, plays for the Bengals.
Well, sir, on that note, I believe we're going
Billy
to...
B's going to Cincy, by the way.
Yeah, I did see that. Okay. Yeah, on that note, we can go ahead and slide to
the NFC.
Our next little break, sir.
Yes, it is time to go pay those bills. So we'll be right back. Welcome back, y'all. Rocking out to the sounds of the play callers.
Yes, sir.
Once again, my name is Stephen Box, joined as always by my co-host Cool McCain, and we are talking the NFL divisional round of the playoffs. We've already covered the 2 AFC games this weekend, and now it is time to shift our attention over to the NFC.
Yes, sir. And of course, we'll be starting with the good old Rams and the Tampa Bay Buccaneers.
Yes, and I'm very much looking forward to seeing Billy V's comments in the chat about Matthew Stafford, because they are coming.
Yes, sir. And before he can get them, let me start myself by saying this. The Rams won last week. Matthew Stafford wasn't the reason why. He didn't hurt them, but he wasn't the reason why they won. This week, he's going to need to be the reason why they win in order for them to win. Odell Beckham having a great game last week and some big catches. Great story. Wonderful. Glad he was able to get that, because it could help him parlay himself into a multi-year deal somewhere next year. Maybe he stays in LA. But the fact of the matter is, this is the game where we're going to have to see Matthew Stafford put the team on his back and win. I don't believe he can do it. You could run the ball with Cam Akers and Darrell Henderson and whoever else you want to bring in, Sonny Michel and whoever else. You're going to have situations where you're going to need to get plays through the air. Stafford has not shown that he can be that guy ever. Now you're playing against Tampa Bay. And understand this, if you watched the Eagles game last week, they did put a nice debilitating crush on us, but the referees were also on their side. You think that's going to change this week? It's not going to, as long as Tom is in Tampa Bay.
Last Friday night on this very show, somebody wearing a 49ers hat who knows the NFC West very well said, and I quote, that the Rams were going to win and Matthew Stafford would have absolutely nothing to do with it. And that is exactly what happened. The Arizona Cardinals fell apart at the end of the season. They were not a good football team that was playing last week. The Rams looked great against them. It's not going to be so easy this week. You're actually going to be going up against a real contender this week. You're going to be going up against the quarterback who can get 15-yard penalties on you anytime he chooses. The Rams built their roster for this game. They were looking at Tampa Bay when they brought in Matthew Stafford, when they brought in OBJ, when they brought in Von Miller. They were looking at this game. This is the game they spent all that money, gave up all those draft picks, did everything for. And we're going to find out what a waste of money it all was. And what a waste of draft picks it was.
100% agree.
I don't even think this game is going to be competitive.
I mean, the thing is, man, Tampa's show last week and in other games, right? They can bait you on defense. They can set you up. They can put a lot of pressure on you. They can get turnovers. They can stop you from being able to run the ball the way that you want to if you don't want to stick to it. And let's face it, the Rams are not going to stick to the run game if it's not successful. Yep. And if you can make it one-dimensional, then again, you're requiring one person to make the plays, and he's never done it before, and that's Matt Stafford.
Let's also look at this. We've said a couple times on here, the Rams struggle with one type of team in particular. That's physical football teams. Now, the Bucs are not as physical as the 49ers and the Titans, who are the other two teams the Rams really struggle with this year. But that defensive front is very physical. They're going to get after Matthew Stafford. They're going to stop their run game. And that is where the Rams are going to fall apart. Yeah, they are built to handle that pass, but I don't think Tom Brady's going to struggle with this defense. I really don't.
And here's the thing, man. They'll get a couple of good plays, but at the end of the day, Aaron Donald's going to mess around, tackle Tom Brady, and he's going to touch him, and it's going to be a penalty because it's Tom Brady.
Yeah.
And then Matt Stafford's going to get thrown 5 feet around, and they won't call it. I hate to say it, not attempting to sound cynical or take anything away from Tom Brady, but I feel as if they ensure that he gets to a certain point, in the postseason. Yeah. And I really felt like that was highlighted last week. That will be highlighted again this week. I'm not going to complain about it because going into the game that you have to account for that. So It is what it is. But Rams, I do not see a win for you. I don't see a victory. I don't believe in Matthew Stafford. I haven't believed in Matthew Stafford. I've said it before the season started. I said it when they were winning, and it hasn't changed now.
I actually feel the way about this game that you feel about the Tennessee game. I think that Tampa is going to absolutely beat them by at least 2 touchdowns.
I think Tampa's going to mollywop them by at least 3 full touchdowns.
I mean, I'm not necessarily going to disagree with that.
Yeah, I think we're looking at least 21.
This is when you know you have done your job. where people just look at your comments and go,
Yeah, I hear you, Billy. I hate that you were kind of had to suffer with that dude as your quarterback for so long. But the good thing is he's out now. You're probably going to either upgrade your team and see what you can do with Goff, or go out and look for another quarterback. But either way, I think that you're in a better place than you were with Matt Stafford.
One final point I will make before we move on to the last game here. If what we think is going to happen this week happens, if the Rams go out and lose, I think it's a very good argument that you could have gotten out of Jared Goff what you got out of Matthew Stafford last week. So you gave up those picks and spent all that money to get Stafford. But did you really upgrade? Because if you don't win this game, what's even the point? And if you do win, your reward is going to be to have to play the 49ers again or play the Packers. That's your reward? Like, you're going to have to go to Lambeau and play the Packers, or you're going to have to play the 49ers again? That's your reward for beating Tampa? You might as well just go and lose.
Yeah, it's really not. But yeah, so going to go ahead and get this main event started here in a moment. Just want to shout out Score No Score. Just, it's an app you can go on during, professional sports games, baseball, soccer, football, and you can bet if with the coins that they give you, and of course you can buy more afterwards. You can just bet on if you believe the team that has the ball is going to score, and you win if they score. If they don't score, you lose. So kind of basic, really simplistic in the explanation, but something that's still fun nonetheless. So guys, if you have an opportunity, check out Score No Score.
I would love to be a fly on the wall watching you try to choose which two drives you want to give Cincinnati a bet.
They may not even get 14.
So with that, it's time for the main event, or at least in my opinion. So we're going to bring on a guy who's should be pretty familiar to our audience, Mr. Tyler Ingram. T.I., welcome, man.
What's up? How you guys doing?
Doing good, man. So we're going to keep this nice, clean fight. We're going to allow Cool to moderate for us. So
Yeah,
it doesn't turn into a slugfest.
So we'll start off, of course, with our friend of the show, multiple time guest, Mr. Tyler Ingram. So Tyler, tell me what you think San Francisco can do to beat you guys on Sunday.
Run the football. Yeah, run the football. That's definitely the biggest worry I have, actually. A lot of people are talking about Debo, and granted, he could run the football too. I'm not saying he can't run the football. They can definitely get him in action and get him some sweeps and whatnot. But Elijah Mitchell is definitely the one that I'm the most concerned about. The Packers have given up the third most rushing yards in the NFL, so it's no secret about it. That is where we're vulnerable on defense. I love our secondary, right? Jair Alexander's back this week. Rasul Douglas is played out of his mind for the contract he has. Honestly, though, for the contract he has, he's playing for pennies right now, and he's been balling. Eric Stokes is nice. Savage is nice. You got Amos back there. I like our secondary. But Elijah Mitchell could definitely present problems for Green Bay. And when you're in Lambeau, to take that crowd away, because it's going to be loud. It's going to be loud on Saturday night. But to take that crowd away, if they can establish with their offensive line, which they have a nice offensive line, and get Elijah Mitchell going, they're going to be boding really well. So he is definitely my biggest concern with San Francisco this week.
I just want to say real quick, every time I think about Rasul Douglas, I get so upset because I was a proponent for him. And I knew he could do this. We ruined him when he was with us, and I'm so upset that he's being so good for y'all, but I'm happy for him. But
yeah, it's weird.
It didn't happen in Philly.
It's weird too, Cool, because I think we talked about this in the beginning of the season, but this is when the Packers wanted Stephon Gilmore. They were going after Stephon Gilmore. They were trying to get him over there. They failed, right? They didn't get him, and so they needed to get a corner, and they literally just picked up Douglas off of the practice squad off of Arizona. So he was easy to claim, paying him nothing. And he's going to earn a contract. I don't even know if he's going to stay with us because he might just take a payday.
I wouldn't blame him if he did.
I couldn't blame him. Couldn't blame him.
Now, to my co-host, Mr. Stephen Box, I'm not going to ask you the same question. I'm going to ask you a different question. So as a 49ers fan, do you feel that the defense that you're going to be able to place on the field is going to be able to slow down Aaron Rodgers, Aaron Jones, and the weapons that they're going to have in Green Bay?
So if you go back to the matchup in week 3, the 49ers defense was still finding its identity. D'Amico Ryans was still finding his identity as a defensive coordinator. And what they did on a lot of these plays was they basically showed Aaron Rodgers exactly what they were going to do. Here's a newsflash. You can't show Aaron Rodgers exactly what you're going to do. He will destroy you. You basically have to line up and not show him anything pre-snap. Aaron Rodgers is a quarterback who will let the play clock run pretty much all the way down because he wants to get as much information from your defense as he can. So the question for me is, has DeMeco Ryans grown enough as a defensive coordinator? Our secondary, Emmanuel Mosley is back healthy. So that's a huge help. Ambry Thomas has been playing really well. Josh Norman is not my starting corner. So that right there already gives us a huge advantage over what we had in week 3. Also, since moving Armstead to D tackle in week 8, we have the number 1 rush defense in the league. I felt like somewhere where the Packers really hurt us in week 3 was they were able to run the football against us. So that allowed that short passing game to be very effective. I think we can shut down the running game. I think that kind of hurts some of the short passing game, which is going to allow my front 4 a better chance of getting home against Aaron Rodgers. So from that standpoint, I think we can slow them down. But my concern is still, although I like my corners, they're still not great. I don't have all pro corners right now. They're still young. And Devontae Adams is an absolute beast. Some of the other stuff they're able to do, and then you got a guy like Aaron Rodgers throwing the ball. That's where my concern is can we get to Aaron Rodgers and prevent him from hitting those throws in the middle of the field? That's really where my biggest concern is in terms of us slowing them down.
Okay. Now, Tyler, I asked you what do you think that or what you were concerned about San Francisco. So let me ask you this. What do you think Green Bay needs to do offensively and defensively to win this game and move on?
Well, I think the offensive line is going to have to do their job. One thing that I love is that this is not the same Green Bay Packers that played in week 3. This is a healthy Green Bay Packers team. This is a Zadarius Smith is back. This is a Jair Alexander is back. These aren't just like average players that didn't play this week. These are all pros we're talking about that are coming back. So I do like that for Green Bay. I think having Jair back is a big deal, especially with the weapons they have, with Debo and with Ayuk and with George Kittle. Like, you need to have another corner that's reliable out there. And I have a lot of trust in Jair Alexander. He's one of the best in the league, probably top 5, top 3, even maybe. As far as offense goes, though, I do think it's going to be on the offensive line. Our offensive line has done really well this year. Aaron has not been sacked. He's getting the ball off. Like Box, alluded to, I think this is a game that Devontae Adams is going to have to get loose. This is that marquee playoff game that if Devontae Adams wants to put, the Packers over the hump, get them back to the NFC Championship for a 3rd straight year in a row, and be able to host it, for a consecutive year at Lambeau, and maybe possibly get over that hangover game that we can't seem to fucking win every year. But sorry about that, guys. Yeah, I think the offensive line is going to have to do its job because I do worry, obviously Nick Bosa, I know he had been in concussion protocol last week. So, but he is playing this week, and that's important to know because he's one of the best pass rushers in the entire National Football League.
Okay. Makes a lot of sense. So, Box, question for you. Do you believe that Jimmy Garoppolo is going to be able to do enough against the Packers secondary, against the Packers defense to win you this game? Or do you feel you're going to have to rely very heavily on the run game? What is your confidence level in Jimmy Garoppolo? And do you believe that, I know we've talked, you told me that, your team expects him to, give you a turnover. You're able to overcome that. Do you believe that that's going to be the case this week, or do you need a cleaner game from him in order to win? What are your thoughts?
So, again, I walk into the assumption, and I assume my defense does too, that Jimmy's going to turn the ball over. Like, I just assume everyone's walking in with that assumption, right? We're hoping as fans, and the defense is probably hoping that when he does it, it's at least like near midfield kind of thing, and it's more like a punt than anything else. Because where those turnovers have the potential to hurt is like the turnover he had against Dallas. They let them get back in the game. He basically gave them the ball in the red zone. You can't afford to do that. Those are the kind of mistakes that can kill us. As far as I'm concerned, I think Jimmy can make a couple of throws here and there when he needs to. I feel like Jimmy's actually one of the best 2-minute quarterbacks in the league. When you are able to, I guess, maybe get him to not think so much, he goes out there and plays really well. When he's actually kind of thinking through things, that seems to be when he makes mistakes. And I think sometimes he has so much confidence in his ability to make a throw. But the key in terms of Jimmy Garoppolo this week is very simple. I need Jimmy Garoppolo to do one thing about 35, 40 times, and that's turn around and hand the ball off.
Yeah, I agree.
If Jimmy Garoppolo can complete 35 to 40 handoffs, the 49ers win this game easily.
Okay.
I think I think it's kind of like this game in particular. It's going to be like who can get there. Like we know what both game plans are going to be. The 49ers want to make sure that Aaron Rodgers doesn't have time. If Aaron Rodgers has time, he is going to light up that secondary. Davante Adams is going to have a mammoth game because they have no answer for Davante Adams. But if they're able to play time of possession, to run Elijah Mitchell, to establish with that offensive line, and get off on our defensive line, then the 49ers are going to be in a good position for sure. So it's just what.
Oh, sorry, Tyler. But keep in mind that Elijah Mitchell did not play week 3. And we hadn't yet figured out that we can hand Debo the ball in week 3. So the rushing attack is going to look completely different than it looked the first time we played.
Well, I mean, I've seen the same thing against like the Cleveland Browns this year and the Packers, for example, on Christmas Day. Like the Browns were in position to possibly win that game against us. But when they stopped running Chubb, that's when they got in trouble. If the 49ers make some kind of bonehead play call that they're going to have Jimmy G in the same situation as he was last week in Dallas, then Jair Alexander, Rasul Douglas, or someone's going to make a heroic play at the end of this game.
Yeah,
right,
just to highlight,
so
I just want to highlight Tyler's point real quick here. So if you go back to our last 4 postseason games against Minnesota, handed the ball off 47 times. Against Green Bay, 42 times. Against Kansas City, only 22 times. That's the game we lost in the Super Bowl. And then last week against Dallas, 38 rushes. So to Tyler's point, if the 49ers keep handing the ball off, they're going to win. If we do something stupid, like decide to try to outduel Aaron Rodgers, it's not going to end well.
All right, guys. So quickly, we've got about a minute and a half left. So about 30 seconds each. We'll start with you, Tyler. What do you think is the X factor in the game? Obviously, we know you think it's going to win. And if you want to give us your score prediction.
So the X factor in this game is going to be the secondary of Green Bay, because I think, and Zadarius Smith, because if Zadarius Smith can get home and be able to create a pass rush, I think that our defense is going to play a lot better than people are giving us expectations. Davante Adams is going to go berserk in this game, and the Green Bay Packers at home are going to remain undefeated on the season.
All right. And same question for you, Bucs.
So for me, it all comes down to the pass rush of the San Francisco 49ers. Aaron Rodgers with a clean pocket this year, 77% completion rate, 29 touchdowns, 0 interceptions, 123.7 rating. Under pressure, he's the 19th best quarterback in the league. Only 38% completion percentage, 8 touchdowns, 3 interceptions, and a 67.9% rating. If the San Francisco 49ers can pressure Aaron Rodgers with their front 4, they will win this game. And I am not even going to dare put a score prediction on this one.
Fair enough. Now, shout out to you, Tyler. You've on the show regularly. You are also on NBA Carousel with me. We're going to be on soon on the Sip Off, so make sure you guys check us out. That's going to be on the Sideline Sports page. Shout out to the Gauntlet show that you guys host with you, James Tatum, my boy Denzel Snipes, Dirty D. We're going to call him. Yeah, we're just going to call him Dirty D tonight. So shout out to those guys. Shout out to you for coming. We appreciate having you, man. And with that, we're just gonna simply say, time for the show to be over.
Go back up.
It's gonna be there, and it's time, as they would say on AEW, for the main event Saturday night.
We'll see y'all next Friday, 7 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Go Niners.
The play call.